Porter or Kilmar?
We can start with Abrego.
Okay. Some good news.
Because what we can do is talk about Abrego and how Christie Nome said he would never set foot free on U.S. soil, and then transfer to Christie Nome, segue to Christie Nome's hearing.
And then she left for a meeting that was canceled, which is hilarious.
Run away!
Run away! God, they're so incompetent. Folks, we're going to talk about a lot of incompetent people today. And it might infuriate you in the worst ways and best ways possible because we're being destroyed by the most corrupt, reckless, idiotic human beings who are thoroughly unqualified for their jobs. And it'll depress you also because these people will rather double down on their incompetence and cruelty than just hand the reins to competent DEI people like, I don't know, Allison, who would be so much better than Christy Nome and Kash Patel and others. But there's also some good news, is that they're effing up so hard, Allison. They're effing up so big. All the scandals are now coming out. And also, I don't know if you saw Axios was reporting today. They did this hilarious, like the fights between MAGA. Like they just listed all 8 of them, right? So MAGA's at each other's throats. The poll numbers have come out. He's negative. Trump is negative, what, 31 on the economy, negative 20 plus on immigration, folks. It is bad. And in this badness, there is a light of hope. Um, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Allison's been talking about him forever. I've been trying to talk about him forever. Democrats forgot about him until Chris Van Hollen, senator from Maryland, went. I always like to give him his flowers, Allison. He was the only one initially who went all the way to the worst Palestinian leader on earth, Bukele, and his friggin' torture prison that we have helped fund with $6 million, and said, I ain't gonna leave until you show me proof of life of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He was there for 2 days, got proof of life of Kilmar Abrego Garcia that kept Kilmar Abrego Garcia in the news. Since then, Trump and Republicans have been negative double digits, and everyone's been asking why this innocent man who simply was brown at the wrong place in the wrong time was kidnapped and sent with 230 men to die forever and be tortured in a prison. A judge in 2019 looked at all of his, history, allowed him to stay. He got married, has a citizen wife, citizen children, no criminal record. The Trump administration itself admitted, Allison, they sent him an error. And despite just, normal people, Allison, would have just said, I would have just blamed someone in ICE. I'm like, it was some low level ICE dude. Anyway, go home, Kilmar. They're so cruel, Allison, that they have kept this man detained, indicted him, like done the worst slander. And then can you let us know what happened today, which is some good news and also reveals the idiocy of this administration?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, on the breakdown on the Midas Touch Network, I said everything, all of these cases are about to come crashing down, and let's watch. Let's watch. It reminds me of that old John Lovitz character, Evelyn Quince. Ooh, the tales of ribaldry. Let's watch.
Deep cut for those who are the older millennials and Gen Xers.
Yes, for those who used to VHS our Saturday Night Live episodes and rewatch them again and again. I said everything's going to come crashing down. Today, Judge Sines granted Mr. Abrego's writ of habeas corpus, that he was being unlawfully detained. And the reason he's being unlawfully detained, and has been since ICE picked him up after he was released from criminal custody when they brought him back to the United States to avoid embarrassing discovery on a 2022 traffic stop where they didn't even issue him a ticket. She released him on his petition of writ of habeas corpus because there's no removal order on the books. And a couple weeks ago, I said, if you don't have a removal order on the books, you cannot detain someone for removal unless you're actively removing them. And, they tried to remove him to Uganda and Uruguay and Liberia and Eswatini, and they took Costa Rica off the table. And a buried a buried lead in this ruling is that Judge Sines said that the government purposefully misled the courts because they filed this declaration that Costa Rica would not accept Kilmar Abrego Garcia under seal. And they did that because they didn't want to announce to the world their lie that Costa Rica would not take them, or would not take Mr. Abrego. Because this whole time, Mr. Abrego has said, I am happy to go to Costa Rica, but I'm not going to plead guilty to those 2 criminal counts to do so. because that was the original deal that the DOJ made. If you plead guilty to our bullshit counts of smuggling people, we'll send you to lovely Costa Rica, where they will treat you as a refugee. Otherwise, we're sending you to Eswatini or Uganda or Liberia or some other African country he's never been to that could just refoul him to El Salvador. And he has an order barring his deportation to El Salvador. It's still standing here in the United States. So they filed that under seal. And then when word got out that they, that particular under seal declaration, first of all, the guy who wrote it admitted in court that he didn't write most of it and didn't even understand most of it and only spent 5 minutes on the Abrego case after he had been given a pretty massive promotion by this government. After that came out, Costa Rica dropped that bomb on us that one late Friday night, saying, "Hey, we never took Costa Rica away. We're happy to take Mr. Abrego." And so they, the government filing that BS declaration, lying about Costa Rica under seal, led Judge Sinis today in her ruling granting his release, immediate release,
Yep.
that the government shall release him, saying, "Oh, it looks like you were trying to mislead the court yet again, and you sent in a sixth witness with no knowledge of the situation after me repeatedly asked. You defied court orders yet again because she repeatedly asked the government to produce a witness that could answer questions, and they still haven't done that to her satisfaction."
Yeah, I mean,
So
again and again and again, just the bad faith that the administration kept lying and delaying and not responding to this judge.
yeah, so when she said at the end of the last evidentiary hearing, we have to eat this elephant one bite at a time, this is
Mm,
one of those bites, the bite that we need to release him from custody because he's being held unlawfully. It's punitive. They're holding him in detention to be jerks.
there
Uh,
you go.
so
There you
that's
go.
this bite. And the next bite is whether or not the government misled the court, defied court order, committed contemptible um, acts when they misled the court and lied to the court, specifically about Costa Rica. And I knew that that was going to be an issue, and that's why I said a couple weeks ago it's all about to come crashing down. And it's not just this case.
No.
There's the Judge Boasberg's criminal contempt for sending Mr. Abrego and 250 other people to El Salvador in the first place. There, he's ordering that Orez Raveni, the whistleblower, who advised the Department of Justice to just, if you just return Mr. Abrego, we can put him back into deportation hearings, and everything is going to be fine. But no, they had to stand their ground, and they had to lie and obfuscate and all of that. But those contempt hearings, Orez Raveni is going to be testifying along with the Department of Justice lawyer who lied to the court multiple times, Drew Ensign. Now,
Mm.
the government has tried to say we shouldn't have to do that, Your Honor, but they don't give any really good reasons. But who knows what the Supreme Court will decide. But anyway, all of these cases are coming crashing down. And to think that Christie Nome, this is hugely embarrassing for this administration because Christie Nome stood up and said to Congress, and Caroline Leavitt repeated in press conferences, that Mr. Abrego will never walk free in the United States. He will never set foot
Right.
on American soil. And now they're being ordered to release him because they screwed up. They're incompetent, and the cover up is worse than the crime. And had they just followed the rules and admitted that they had made an error deporting these people to El Salvador, they might just, he could be in Costa Rica by now and done with deportation proceedings. But no, they wanted to go the double down illegal route, and it's costing them.
It's costing them, but look at the pain, look at the suffering. I mean, this is straight up sociopathic behavior, folks. He should be free. First and foremost, he should have never, ever, ever been abducted. Secondly, after he was abducted, yo, you made a mistake. This is the United States of amnesia. You lie, just make up an excuse, let him go home. Like it's just PR 101. It's one of those things where you just say, okay, you'll take the egg on the face for a week. But our corporate media is completely broken. Trump, there's like 13 other fires. No, people will move on. But they decided out of their cruelty, folks. I just really want to stress this, how cruel they are. They decided to ruin this man's life. I want to read something real quick from Talking Points memo before we mock and ridicule Christie Nome because she's earned it and deserved it. Quote, as a result, ICE had no basis to detain Kilmar Abrego Garcia or to continue to detain him. But the irony befitting a Greek tragedy is that if there was never a final order of removal in the first place, then Abrego Garcia should never have been on whatever removal list the government kept that led to his deportation and imprisonment in El Salvador in March. No immigration judge had ever ordered his removal, the judge concluded. So his wrongful deportation was doubly wrong. It violated the withholding order, but even more fundamentally, Abrego Garcia wasn't even under order to be deported.
Mm-hmm.
They just kidnapped random brown people, put them on a plane, and sent them to be tortured and to die in a foreign prison that we have helped fund with $6 million of our taxpayer money. I just want people to sit with that.
Yeah, that and the lawyers who recently said in another bombshell report, this time from the New York Times, that the survivors of shipwrecked boats in Venezuela, they were considering sending to Seacoast prison in order to keep them out of the U.S. courts, so that this government wouldn't have to face the truth and discovery. And just one last bit about Abrego, because some folks are like, well, the Supreme Court will stay this order. So you know how sometimes judges are like, my order for release is stayed for 7 days to give time. That is not here. Judge Zinis says that Abrego shall be released immediately. And I need an email confirming that no later than 5 p.m. Eastern Time today, Thursday, December 11th, which is in a couple hours from now.
Wow.
So she's not staying her order of release in order to allow for appeal. So if the next higher court or an emergency petition to the Supreme Court goes through, presuming ICE releases Mr. Abrego pursuant to this court order, they would have to actually put him back in prison as opposed to halting his release, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And if
And
they
she ain't
defy
messing
the
around,
court
folks.
order and don't release him immediately and send an email by 5 p.m. today to that effect, then they again will be in contempt. And I do realize, a lot of people are like, he'll just ignore, they don't care about contempt. It's kind of toothless. And yes, I understand where you're coming from. However, a thousand, like a thousand of these brief inconveniences is how we defeat fascism. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's important that we don't roll over and just not try because it won't work out for us in the end. This is one of 1,000 things that is underway right now that help us to defeat fascism. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? It's important
Yeah.
that we go through these.
No, and I appreciate you breaking it down for us in the way you did, just to outline again how this should have never happened in the first place, an obscene miscarriage of justice. And folks, do the math. Since March, it's almost been a year. This man has a wife, he has kids, he has done nothing wrong, no criminal back. He would literally was walking while brown. And this administration, because they're so cruel and run by, let's just be honest, call them for what they are: racists, Nazis, white supremacists. Yes, I said it. If you don't believe me, you're not trusting the evidence of your eyes and ears. They're promoting Nazi conspiracy theories and Nazi words like remigrate. This is where we are. The hoods are completely off and they're putting on the swastikas. But they're so incompetent, thankfully, and so reckless that it's being, if you will, the plot is being foiled in real time. And this is where we go to Christie Nome. Because, oh, Christie Nome, you mentioned something where Christie Nome is getting the heat. A couple of weeks ago, Allison, you and I talked about that story, that leak that happened where the Department of Justice blamed Christie Nome for disobeying Judge Brosberg's order that ordered this plane that had Kilmar, Abrego Garcia, and 230 plus brown men being sent to CCOT, ordered them to turn it around. And they said, oh, well, the plane's out. We can't do anything. Oh, no. And then the DOJ said, oh, actually, it was Christie Nome. It was her who disobeyed your order, and she could have turned the plane around. It's actually her. And then Christie Nome today. Can you tell them what Christie Nome did today? Just because we let's just make fun of her. She deserves it.
Well, there's so many. She testified in front of the House Homeland Security Committee today. The first thing that she said that stood out to me was when Rep. Magaziner asked her how many veterans that she's deported during this
Mhm.
hearing. And she said, with the full force of, truly believing what she's about to say, she said, "We have not deported any veterans." And then the representative brought up on a Zoom call a combat veteran who she deported to Korea, where he hasn't been since he was 7 years old. He served in the military. He was shot twice, got a Purple Heart, but because of his PTSD, had some issues with addiction and drugs back 20, 30 years ago or something, and was caught with a very minor drug charge, and that to this administration is deportable. You certainly don't have to deport a veteran who was caught with a not with a distributing level amount of drugs, but just possession. You don't have to, but they did, and so that confrontation has gone viral. And she was like, "Oh well, I he must have been a criminal, whatever." And no, just a minor drug offense. And the representative was like, "Will you look at his case?" And she conceded that she would, to see if he could be brought back to his home here in the United States. So that kind of confrontation happened multiple times today in this hearing.
And she was confronted repeatedly with her lies. She was not prepared. She looked like, usually if these folks, if you've noticed, Allison, because you and I are masochists and we watch these folks, there was a type of brazen arrogance in which they defied the Congress, right? You remember Kash Patel a couple of months ago, right? They lied, they talked over them, they didn't care, they had a swagger. That swagger is missing. I saw Christie Nome today. She was
Mhm.
deer in headlights. And then she fled. She abruptly ended it and said, "I have to go to a FEMA meeting." And folks, it just gets better. The day gets better. That FEMA meeting that she had to leave for, it was already canceled. So she lied about the meeting that she was going to. She couldn't even make up a good lie. She couldn't say, "I got a doctor's appointment. Oh, my kid's calling." She goes, I got to go to this FEMA meeting." And they're like, "Was it the one that got canceled earlier?" So she's stuck. And, I was talking to Lev, and Lev said, and I could see where he's coming from. He said, Trump is not going to get rid of Cash. He's not going to get rid of Bondi. He's not going to get rid of Kegseth because they're loyalists. And now all of them, and this was me adding on, live so permanently in his anus that they'll rise with him and they'll sink with him. And I'm really curious, do you think he'll get rid of a Gnome or not? Because I've been hearing that out of all of them, she might be the one who he'll throw under the bus.
Well, Stephen Miller has a lot of pull with what happens with DHS.
Mm.
He recently replaced all of ICE with Customs and Border Protection folks because ICE was too woke. Their operations were too by the book, and he really liked what Greg Bovino from Customs and Border Protection was doing with like Operation Midway Blitz and that MacArthur Park invasion, things like that. Stephen Miller likes those better, and likes Bovino's lying to the court and defiance of the courts better. And so Stephen Miller also doesn't like Christie Nome, doesn't think that
Mm.
she's spending money fast enough to build concentration camps.
That's right.
And if Stephen Miller doesn't like you, but Trump recently, I had read that somewhere that he's disagreeing with Stephen Miller on certain things. So I am not sure, but the rumors are more solid about replacing Christie Nome in January with Glenn Youngkin, for example, because I think they want to keep Bovino head of the secret police,
Yeah.
head of the
Yeah.
Gestapo. But you know, we'll see. I'm actually, the first administration had much higher turnover than this one, but I think it's because Trump has had 6 years to vet loyalists and to gather enough dirt on people and put criminals in positions of power so he can dangle those sort of Damocles crimes over their heads to blackmail them to stay loyalists. But aside from that, I think if anybody's going to go, I thought it was Patel, but I think you're right. It might be Nome first. So we'll see, because Stephen Miller often gets his way when it comes to Donald Trump.
And essentially, Stephen Miller is the one running DHS. That's what we've heard, and also he's pretty much the most powerful unelected person on earth right now. Also, kind of de facto head of DOJ. They say he's the one running the show as Donald Trump falls asleep and then wakes up to make a racist comment, and then goes to his hearing. Did you see that? Excuse me, the rally. Did you see the rally in Pennsylvania? That
Mm.
was just so pathetic. He was supposed to stay on message, folks, and talk about affordability. They gave him a script. Couldn't do it.
No,
Couldn't do it. Because Ilhan Umar, Ilhan, the thing on her head, Ilhan Umar. Yeah,
he called the 100 people who went to the rally. He's like, "You're all a bunch of ingrates. Everything's affordable and awesome." Like, and that's not the message they want to do. The message they're trying to send is that the economy is bad. We recognize the economy is bad. Even Mike Johnson a couple weeks ago was like, "Yeah, prices are high, but they're coming down faster than they were before." They're trying to pin it on Biden. They're trying to say even a year on, it's still really bad because of what Joe Biden did. But Trump could not stay on that message. He couldn't stay on the Mamdani message. He couldn't stay on, the healthcare message, and now he's not able to stay on the "it's Biden's fault." Now, he's tried. I've seen him say a couple of things to that effect, but he belies himself every time he speaks when he goes off script and says, "Screw you guys. Everything's great. Everything's cheap. We just stole a bunch of oil we're going to use to bring gas prices down
that
from
was yesterday.
Venezuela."
That was yesterday, folks. Like it was connecting both. He can never stay on message. I like to bring receipts. After he survived his assassination attempt and put the diaper on his ear at the RNC, they gave him a very strict script. He was supposed to appear demure. Remember that useless establishment waste known as Katie Tourage? She said, he's civil, he's changed, he's more demure. Oh, this will be a more toned down Trump." Remember that? So the first 20 minutes of that speech, you all remember, he was fine, and then he goes on a 9,000 word rant, being Trump, making fun of Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi. Literally, as he survived an assassination, has the diaper on his ear, does the mocking hammer motion of David DePape, a Trump supporter who almost killed Paul Pelosi. This is who he is as he's dying before our eyes. And I wanted to bring this up, this other news item that came out last night. As he's dying before our eyes, his cruelty, vulgarity, misogyny, that's just out in the open, right? So instead of staying on message, for those who didn't follow his speech on Pennsylvania, the same night that Eileen Higgins won big, 19-point swing, huge Democratic mayor, he talks about Somali people as garbage. He said, "Why can't we get people from non-shithole countries?" And then he told people, your daughter doesn't need $37. Kids don't need more than one pencil, but I deserve to get a jet and I deserve to have a ballroom. This is who he is. And then last night, Allison, did you see that? It's all projection with Donald Trump Republicans. Every accusation is a confession. Do you see that insane Truth Social rant where he admitted to having 3 cognitive tests?
In front of a panel of doctors.
One of them is for dementia. You were like, what? And I'm sitting there like, bro, why did you have 3 tests? What,
Yeah.
2 MRIs and now 3 cognitive tests?
And did you think there were multiple doctors in the room because they heard you were there and they wanted to come watch you speak? Like, is that why you think that there were many doctors in the room? It's his that press conference yesterday where he called Jerome Powell a deadhead fed hair, and then just slurred something that I couldn't even translate. I think I know what he meant when he said deadhead fed hair. I think he meant deadhead fed chair, but I'm not sure if deadhead meant he really likes the Grateful Dead or that he's dumb. I can't. I'm not sure about that, but I knew what he was getting at. Later on, he was like, and I couldn't even put it together. Usually, I can put together what he's trying to say, but it's getting to the point now. He's his dementia is getting so bad
Yeah.
that that those of us who can speak Trump are no longer able to translate what he's saying.
Yeah, used to be able to cut through it, but now he's dying before our eyes. It reminds me, someone said this yesterday, and I went back and saw the clip, and it made me laugh. I love The Simpsons. It was that clip. Did you ever see that? It's an old scene where they're like, "Did Dad ever write you love letters?" Lisa asked Marge. He goes, "Yeah, I have one," and it's when he was completely plastered from the, and he goes, "Marge, you have a great ass. Pretzels, $5. What?" That was that was his love letter, and he just like it trails off, and I'm like, that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is now a completely drunk Homer Simpson, but Homer Simpson wasn't cruel. It's a he has some empathy and love in his heart. It's like a sociopathic. Completely cruel version of Homer Simpson, who is drunk. That is the president of the United States right now. Speaking about the worst people on earth, this is gold. I have a question for you, Allison, and I think you should have the answer for this. Where is Antifa headquartered?
Oh, in my basement, in the basement of
Oh,
the Alamo.
okay, got it. Thank you. I wanted
There's
to know.
no basement at the Alamo.
There's no.
It's with Pee
This,
Wee Herman's bike in the basement of the
yeah,
Alamo.
yeah. Uh, 1985, Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. A great movie directed by Tim Burton, but I digress. What's
Music
the
by
secret?
Danny Elfman.
Yeah, yeah. But today there was another hearing which went terrible. I mean, this was terrible for the Trump administration. Because, like I said, folks, if you've been watching these hearings, right, they had a swagger. They used to troll. They used to come there and mock and ridicule. This is something that was just exquisite. And I give credit to Benny Thompson and a Democrat. He had someone from the FBI's National Security Branch, and he was asking him questions. Right, he was asking, "Well, what's the most, what's the biggest domestic terror threat?" And so this man said Antifa, and then Benny Thompson, so very casually said, "Okay, where is Antifa headquartered?" And I shit you not, this is, I'm going to do an impression of the guy. It was, I mean,
You blinked though.
oh, I blinked. I'm sorry. Uh, I'm not making up for it. It's like 4 seconds. Cameras on him. And well, that's the assessment of the White House. And Benny Thompson
But
goes,
then he
"I'm not."
said,
Go ahead.
but then he said, um, after sat there for a second, he said, "We're building out the infrastructure right now." It's like,
Yeah.
you're building the Antifa headquarters? You guys are going to build it? Is it under the ballroom? Is it under the Epstein ballroom? Is that where Antifa's headquartered? What are you even talking about? What are you even talking about? It's all falling apart. We knew it would. Like you said, every accusation is a confession. And I want to bring this up because I also saw on the some cable news show. Somebody went on. Who was it? It was Ryan Zinke, who's been investigated like 18 times. And he said that he called the six Democratic lawmakers the seditious six. And he said it's absolutely sedition to tell people to obey unlawful orders. I would like one reporter in the legacy media, just once, to bring up the fact that if that is sedition, then every member of Congress has committed sedition,
Mm,
because every member of Congress that voted to pass the National Defense Authorization Act, because the National Defense Authorization Act authorizes the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which says it's illegal to obey unlawful orders, and you have a duty to disobey unlawful orders. So that means everyone who's voted for the NDA in Congress has committed sedition. It means everyone who's written the Law of War Manual or instructed anyone at West Point or the Naval Academy or been a drill instructor has committed seditious conspiracy, because they've all effectively said that it is unlawful obey an illegal order, that you must actually disobey unlawful orders. So I'm just waiting for one person to if a Republican congressman who voted yes on the National Defense Authorization Act to fund this Department of Defense, to say, "Oh, it's sedition what Mark Kelly did." Well, are you investigating yourself? Investigate yourself, because you authorized the UCMJ. Like, you authorized this rule to go into effect. You have effectively said that no one should obey unlawful orders yourself. You've said it yourself by voting yes on the NDAA. I don't think we'll get any journalists doing that, in at least in this corporate legacy media, and especially if the hostile takeover of Warner Brothers and CNN goes through, funded by Saudis, laundered by Jared Kushner,
yep.
through his little hedge fund management private equity firm or whatever. $24 billion from the Saudis to buy CNN. $24 billion, and Paramount's worth 14 billion right now. I mean, it's an insane amount of money that's coming from foreign investors in that. I know I just tied 16 things together,
No,
but
no, but that's I'm so glad you mentioned it because I've been asking on social media because I troll MAGA. I said, okay, so you want to get rid of Ilan Omar, Somalis, Muslims, you want to get out, but you're perfectly fine with Saudi Arabia buying up Warner Brothers, buying up Arizona Water, buying up golf, buying up AI technology, buying up property with Qatar buying up the Air Force facility or being gifted the Air Force training facility in Idaho. That's fine. And then they're like, shut up, get out. So I'm like, all right. And of course, laundering it through Jared Kushner, giving him $2 billion. They gave the Witkoffs $1.5 billion. And then also the Ellisons, Larry Ellison and his Nepo baby, David Ellison, buying up TikTok, CBS, Paramount, and now making the hostile bid along with Saudi Arabia and Jared Kushner for Warner Brothers, CNN, and David Ellison, folks. If you haven't followed, and it's big news. David Ellison openly admitted, yeah, Donald Trump wants them to buy CNN, and he thinks CNN is biased, and he's like, yeah, I agree with you. So essentially, this is so corrupt. It's so disgusting. Why is Jared Kushner involved in this deal? He's the nephew of the president. The president hates CNN. The guy who wants to buy CNN says, "Oh, you hate CNN? Okay, we'll make changes. Just give us the authorization to do this merger, block Netflix." And also, how it ties to Israel is Larry Ellison is the single largest private donor to the IDF, the second richest man, and him and David Ellison are hardcore right wing pro Netanyahu Zionists. And I don't know if you've been hearing, folks, the young people weren't radicalized by seeing a genocide, they were radicalized by the TikTok. Well, now TikTok belongs to Larry Ellison.
Yeah,
So
well, Jared Kushner is what makes this hostile takeover of CNN and Warner Brothers by the Saudis legal. That's what that is. That just like Michael Cohen's Essential Consulting that took hundreds of thousands and millions from Russian companies and AT&T and T and some aerospace companies, as if Michael Cohen was somehow a brilliant telecommunications advisor or aerospace advisor. But it was just a slush fund to bribe the president. But that's how they do this legally. It's lawful but awful, much like the seizure of the oil tanker from Venezuela. That's actually lawful if they do it right. They might screw it up. They have a tendency to do that. But like for example, if they don't have a Coast Guard or a law enforcement officer on there, then it's a seizure by the military, and that violates posse comitatus. We
yep.
did this a bunch in the '90s when we seized a bunch of oil tankers in the Gulf over there. So there's a legal way to do it, but they have a tendency to screw up the legal ways of doing things. They did it in
Oh,
Abrego. They did it. They might do it with the seizure of the oil tanker, and they might do it with this hostile takeover of Warner Brothers. And that's why it's so important. I think our only recourse for accountability is going to be hearings in Congress. We're not going to
yep.
see arrests because Pam Bondi's not going to arrest anybody. Trump's going to pardon everybody. If Trump shuffles off the mortal coil, then whoever succeeds him is going to pardon everybody.
Yep.
We're not signatories to the International Criminal Court, so none of our U.S. officials can be tried at The Hague. So it's really about congressional investigations, congressional subpoena power, which we don't have unless we get the majority. And so that is why it's so important. These midterms are so important, is because impeachment and hearings, getting the truth out to the public for political consequences, is going to be probably our only accountability that we're going to see here.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And, we've been talking about that a lot. Is the town protects its own? They all fail up. None of these people ever go to prison. I'm sorry, that's just how America works. They're all buddy buddies. They're all pals because they want to make sure, hey, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. Nixon never went to jail. None of the war criminals who engineered the failed war on terror went to jail. Dick Cheney just got a hagiography. That guy should have been in prison. Tony Blair's still running around, right? So this is what's going to happen. But like you said, I completely agree. You bring the truth to account, you hold their feet to the fire, you embarrass them, you humiliate them. And what that does, and it shows the people, these people are incompetent, they're reckless. And I think more and more people, like everyone hates Jared Kushner. And even when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, Witkoff and Kushner, what the F are you doing? Why are you there? Why are you meeting them? You're not part of the administration. What are the deals that you're making? Jared Kushner, why'd you get $2 billion from Saudi Arabia? Stephen Witkoff and your dad, why'd you get $1.5 billion? What are the secret meetings you're having with Putin? Are you in favor of yourself or U.S. security? Huh. Also, why Saudi Arabia? I think more and more, if we just, why Saudi Arabia buying up Warner Brothers and CNN and being allowed to do it? I think that alone will piss people off. But I digress. Um, let's talk about, well, really,
I guarantee you, Marjorie Taylor Greene will use it in her America First v. MAGA
absolutely.
situation. She'll be like,
Absolutely.
allowing the Saudis to buy our media, that's not making America great again. She's against the Venezuela thing. She's against Ukraine. She's against anything that's not America First. And she's trying to usurp the cult leadership to get Donald Trump's base away from Donald. She's trying to pry Donald Trump's base away from Donald Trump by showing all the ways that Donald Trump is not putting America first. The farm bailout, 12 billion to the farmers because of his stupid trade deals and his stupid tariffs. And so I guarantee you we'll see if, Marjorie Taylor Greene bringing this up, as one of the reasons that, one of the many reasons, this hostile takeover of Warner Brothers, that Donald Trump isn't putting America first, so that she could try to seize on his base and bring him
I
over
think
to her side.
more and more people say this. I was talking to Lev about this. He completely agreed with me. And I'm on several WhatsApp groups. Folks, don't sleep on this. I know you all think I'm crazy. Don't sleep on Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes. Don't sleep on it. They're attacking MAGA, but what they're doing is a temporary regrouping. So she didn't retire, she resigned. So what she's doing, she's moving away, and she's going to gather all the fractured MAGA base, the independent base, the disaffected base, which is why I keep warning the Democrats. You're ignoring what's working with people. I've seen in so many WhatsApp groups, they're going further to the left than the Democratic establishment, not the Democrats, but the Democratic establishment on Israel. Folks, they're winning a lot of people. Folks have been radicalized on Israel. All right. I'm telling you, they've gone further to the left. Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Most people get their news from TikTok now and Instagram and YouTube, and they're just getting the selective clips. They're not getting the full picture that me and Allison know about Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? So they're like, oh, look, she's changed. Oh, look, on this issue, she's great. She's also now doing America First, non-interventionism. People don't like interventionism in war. They want to concentrate on America. Number three, what she's also doing is now affordability. Oh, the stuff that we've been talking about, huh? And
Since
and now,
forever, since
and
forever.
did you see Medea Benjamin took a photo with her yesterday? The
Uh-uh.
Code, yeah, the Code Pink people took a photo with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene bought, like, I think, a keffiyeh. Someone said she's on CNN all the time. She is trash. She is a white nationalist. America First is Nick Fuentes's white nationalist slogan. She has never condemned Nick Fuentes, a neo-Nazi. Use her, don't be used by her. Use her, don't be used by her, and don't fall asleep on this. And if you don't go further to the left, on Marjorie Taylor Greene, on Israel, on interventionism, on affordability. I'm telling you, folks, they're gobbling up a lot of people, Allison. So I think it's up to us to remind people how trashy and terrible she is.
And I think we can avoid that if we campaign properly. If we campaign the way Mamdani campaigned, for example, or for the way they campaigned to keep the judges on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, or if we campaigned the way that they did on our Amazing Tuesday last month, focusing on the issues. Montana did this in the state legislature with trans issues. Zoe Zephyr was instrumental in convincing people, like, what are you even talking about with this identity BS? Like, we need to make sure our students are protected and educate our kids, right? And a lot of Republicans agreed. That's what we need to be doing. And I think that, for example, Jasmine Crockett and Tallarico are running against each other for a
Yeah.
seat in for the Senate in Texas. What I would like to see is what Brad Lander and Mamdani did. Get together and say, we're both awesome and we love each other. Here's how we differ. And we want to represent what you want. So you vote for which of us you think has the better platform, because we want to support representing what our constituents want in the Senate. And when the primary is over and you have decided which platform you prefer as our constituents, the other one of us will back the other one
Yes, has to
for
be. Has to be.
this seat, instead of attack ads and making people who want Jasmine Crockett hate Tallarico and making people who love Tallarico hate Jasmine Crockett, so that people won't vote for the other if they don't win the primary. That is uh it has backfired on us spectacularly since 2016. We have to go in with an alliance, to understanding that our party is a big tent, and that what we really want is for our electeds to represent what the constituents want. Nobody's going to be mad about that. If the constituents want Crockett's platform a little bit more than Tallarico's, or Tallarico's platform a little bit more than Jasmine Crockett, then the rest of the constituents should say, I will vote for the person even though I didn't back them in the primary, because they want to represent the majority needs in our constituency. And they're so close on a lot of these issues anyway. That's how we need to run these races, not with hate and vitriol and throwing trans people under the bus and
Yep.
throwing immigrants under the bus by saying we need to secure borders and whatever else you're trying to do to get Liz Cheney to like you. Like that isn't going to work anymore,
Over.
and we should need to
Over.
learn these lessons. We need to learn the Brad Lander Mom Donnie message, and we need to learn it well so that we don't end up shooting ourselves in the foot by turning, like a lot of Bernie voters that didn't vote for Hillary because of the contentiousness of that particular race. Like we need to stop doing that because we alienate so many voters that way.
And I'm telling you, folks, going back to what Allison and I were talking about, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be right there to scoop them up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fall asleep on this, folks. People are sick and tired of the establishment. They're sick and tired of institutions. They're willing to just back anyone who can make their life better, which is why Bernie and Trump were like the anti-establishment voices, which is why people voted for both Trump and Mamdani. People voted for Trump and AOC. They want to change. So you got to give them some bold change. And I think that partnership, like you just mentioned, that's a really good Lander and Mamdani, right? Like, all right, we both want to win. This is where we align. This is where we differ. Who's your horse? Okay, you went for Mamdani. Great. And now Brad Lander is running to replace Goldman. I hope he does. And I'm all for it. I think Lander is a good fighter. I think he's been consistent. He's been a person who, his Judaism is very important to him. I think he refers to himself as a progressive Zionist. But at the same time, he's been critical about the occupation. He's been critical about Netanyahu. He understands where the wind is blowing. So there is a way to you have a big tent, but without, like you said, Allison, throwing the rest of us under the bus. It's so important that they meet the base where it is and do not repeat the mistakes of 2024. And speaking about a huge mistake that the GOP just made, in addition to the cruelty, uh, right before I got on with Allison about an hour ago, the GOP has refused to extend the Obamacare subsidies. Do they want to lose? Like, do they want people to become radicalized? Do they want people to hate them? Explain this to me. Like, this is a slam dunk, and especially as the poll came out today, that healthcare -31 on healthcare now.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to go ahead, I think Trump truly believes and is trying to get the Republican Party to also think that they truly believe that they can tell the people to ignore the evidence of their eyes and their ears. And sometimes they maybe can do that with more intangible issues, but you can't do it with affordability. You can't do it with pricing. You can't tell somebody that gas isn't expensive when it's expensive because they are reminded on a near weekly basis or however often they fill up their tank or however often they go to the grocery store. So I think they're doubling Trump, at least in his mind. He's got his messaging that he's supposed to do on affordability, but he in his mind he truly believes he can convince his base that everything's really affordable and stuff is cheap and the economy is great. I think he really thinks that he can do that, and that is going to be a major test in these midterms and in upcoming elections. So far, a test that Republicans are failing miserably if we look at our recent special election results. That you can't, I think what we're learning is that you cannot convince people that things are affordable when they are not. And so it's going to be, I think it will be a pretty crucial mistake if they go forward with Trump's off script message of trying to convince regular everyday Americans that things are totally affordable and totally great. And especially when Trump is mixing the message, saying austerity, you can only have two pencils, but everything's really cheap. Like when you try to mix those messages, you're going to confuse people as more than perhaps even he is confused on the issue. So I think it's going to be crucial that that is something that has to be focused on as we go forward into the midterms. Don't listen to your pocketbook, right?
Yes, yes, and don't take these issues for granted,
And that's
Dems.
what with healthcare. Same with healthcare. When your healthcare premium, that's what you were talking about. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, but when your
No, it's
healthcare
right.
premium doubles and triples, you aren't going to be able to convince somebody that your healthcare prices are just fine. You're not going to be able to convince somebody whose premium has gone from $400 a month to $2,000 a month, meaning $24,000 a year, that if I send you a $2,000 check, everything's going to be okay. You're not going to be able to convince people of that, especially when the time where you have to get your new healthcare plan happens months before the primary elections begin in 2026. It's just not going to work.
And his cruelty, saying the 401k is fantastic. Look at the stock market. Everything's fine. Prices are down. Like, people aren't buying it, folks. Every week is a disastrous pull for them every week. And for the apparently the rumors are saying that you're going to have 20 plus Republicans announce their resignation. I think it's going to be even more because once people lose their health care, folks, and this is, I've been talking about this for a while. It's my fear, and I hope I'm wrong about this, Allison. We have 400 million guns in this country. And I remember the story of Luigi Mangione, the alleged shooter. Um, Once people see their family members die for not getting healthcare, once people see themselves getting sick, once people see their healthcare premiums, folks, like Allison said, for millions of Americans, it's going to double and triple once these subsidies expire. In addition to expensive grocery prices, in addition to inflation, in addition to utilities going up, in addition to the job market contracting, right? Uh, Allison, people get radicalized. People get radicalized. People get desperate.
Well,
And
it's what we saw it in the 2024 election when affordability was the issue, and Trump promised that he would bring prices down, and has done the opposite, right? I mean, that's why so many people, so many particularly young people, young white males, young white females, voted for Donald Trump as opposed to Kamala Harris in 2024, and it was based on affordability. So that's it. Like you said, it radicalizes people, and it'll do it in the opposite direction this time because the Republicans happen to be in control of every branch of the government.
yep. And did you see Tucker? Oh, I have to last question I have to ask you. Do you see Tucker? Okay. The MAGA fights are exquisite. We predicted that they would turn on each other after a year. I was wrong. It was less than a year. Uh, for those who aren't following, Tucker Carlson is now mocking and ridiculing the people in power, which are Republicans, as Allison said. Laura Loomer is now against Tucker Carlson. Ben Shapiro is against Nick Fuentes. Candace Owens is against Tim Pool. Tim Pool is against Candace Owens. This, they're. I mean, these are knives out. These aren't just little petty fights. They're out for blood. The MAGA implosion. Your take on this?
Well, it was bound to happen. Horrible, evil people are horrible and evil. I mean, that's the. I mean, the end. I like. It's like you put a bunch of rats in a bag. They're not going to get along. Um,
Especially when you put a lighter underneath that bag.
right. So I mean, we've I have long said, the pop group Pop Will Eat Itself.
Yes.
I've been saying GOP will eat itself, as in the GOP, for as long as I can remember, and they don't last long. We saw them fall apart in the first Trump administration. It led to the loss of the election in 2020, and it will now that it's that the influencers, big right wing influencers,
That's right.
are involved in these fights now, because they used to all be on the same team. Now that they're there's a lot of infighting, and a lot of it probably has to do from jealousy because one guy was allowed in the press room and another guy wasn't, or whatever. But evil people are evil, and they have a hard time keeping alliances. We have a whole phrase about it in Latin, meaning it's been going on since people spoke Latin, sic semper tyrannis, as always with tyrants. It's because they're horrible people and they turn on each other, and there's disloyalty and all of this Hitler. I mean, look at any tyrant, and we learn these lessons from folks like Heather Cox Richardson and Ruth Ben Ghiat over time. And that's part of the kind of let them stand back and let them destroy themselves,
Yes.
but also the urgency of the moment requires us to also step in and help them
Yes. And
destroy themselves.
if I may say this, use them, don't be used by them. I want to repeat this. Use Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson. For the love of God, don't be used by them. And I've been telling this to my friends on WhatsApps because, folks, these are smart people. People are low information voters. They get their news in segments. It's up to us to remind people they're all terrible. Just because a terrible person might be right about Israel, Palestine, or corruption and affordability doesn't mean they're not terrible. All these people are terrible. They are using you right now. Right now, they're using the establishment. They're using corporate America. They're using these avenues to launder themselves and rehabilitate themselves to come back after
Mm,
Trump is dead. What I'm telling you and what Allison's telling you, use them. Don't be used by them, and use them to destroy MAGA. And folks, you can. These are the heavy hitters. These are like the sluggers coming out for each other. The Candace Owens, the Loomers, the Shapiros, the Levines, the Benny Johnsons. Benny Johnson's now allegedly gay, according to Milo Yiannopoulos, and more and more. Let them eat each other and destroy each other. And the
yep.
more and more they weaken, the better it is for the rest of us. And also now they're losing their revenue and their money stream also.
Yep.
And you see them like turning out each other. The Rogan Sphere, now people are laughing at the Rogan Sphere and the mothership in Austin. Now you're seeing Andrew Schultz and these other people say, oh, Trump is corrupt. He's pardoning all these people. Tim Dillon is now mocking them and saying, what the hell are these people up to? They're just clowns. Fantastic. Let them all
Yep.
eat each other and bring about the collapse and use them. Don't be used by them. Thank
Great
you to the
message.
1800.
I have to run. I've
Yeah,
got
no, I was about to
another
say, please
show.
shamelessly promote yourself.
Just everybody would love it if you would subscribe. It's free to subscribe to
No, but tell them what you're
motorshow.com.
doing. The really nice thing you're doing.
Oh, I'm donating my entire disability benefits as for being a 100% disabled veteran to communities that this administration puts in harm's way. We dropped. I donated $10,000 this week to the Stonewall Inn Gives Back initiative. I'm going to be giving another 10,000 to immigrant bail funds, another $10,000 to immigrant pro bono legal work, another 10,000 to It Gets Better, which helps amplify voices of LGBTQ plus youth, especially trans youth, and another 5,000 to the Human Rights Campaign. That's the totality of my annual veterans benefits, and I'm donating the equivalent. So if you want to support me, everything, all my stuff is free, but I'm able to do this because you all support, because some of you are able to kick in a little money financially and support the work that we do. So thank you to everybody, even just listening and reading and subscribing for free helps. So I appreciate all of you.
Everyone, go join mothershewrote.com. The breakdown, everything is free. She, like me, is a terrible capitalist. She's giving all of her benefits to good causes. So please, please chip in a couple of bucks. I also, everything is free. First, give money to Allison. And if you have $3.80 left over, I'm doing a discount up until the new year. It's like $3.80 a month, $38 a month. But if not, first give it to Allison. Thank you all. Be kind, be informed. Go see Allison. When's your next show? 3 o'clock?
In 1 minute. Yeah.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye, Allison. Thank you.
Bye.